All right, so I told myself that I wasn't going to be making full outright videos on this topic much anymore because of how dark it was getting and how bleak the situation was becoming. And I honestly thought it was going to get worse. But I think we have reached a point where the boiling point has kind of simmered down. And I think we're starting to see this beef kind of end. So obviously, we have Meet the Grams, which is still one of the most traumatizing events I have had in my music listening. And even though it is on streaming, I am not going to be listening to that still. And I think Kendrick realized this because Not Like Us dropped immediately after. And my God, is that a banger and a half? The mustard beat is incredible. And I think the way that Kendrick goes through it, it just sounds a little bit more playful, but there's still those biting accusations and allegations of obviously pedophilia and surrounding yourself with sexual predators in the OVO camp. But you do get those little campy and kind of goofy moments like OV and as much as it's like a really biting allegation, but the A minor portion is still is a kind of takes the sincerity out of it. And I think we honestly needed that because man, this beef was getting so disgustingly brutal and evil. I think that was a smart play of Not Like Us coming out immediately afterwards to at least soften just a little bit of how brutal this was getting. But then Drake drops the Heart Part 6. And also not to mention too, Not Like Us is looking to debut at number 1, which if you really consider Push-Ups debuted at number 19 on the Billboard Hot 100. So if Kendrick gets a number 1 spot with one of these records, that is very telling of what the general synopsis of what this beef is happening. But again, the Heart Part 6 released, and I think in some parts it is a worthy response. In particular, the hypocrisy argument, especially considering the R. Kelly situation where Kendrick was going to take his songs off streaming if R. Kelly was taken off streaming there as well. Very hypocritical. I don't think that still makes sense in the context of time. But I think the Heart Part 6 was a very rushed response. And things just don't add up. Like, for example, in the particular line where Drake says that the info that was given was from clowns. But the way that it's said a couple lines later is that we fed the information to him. Now, you could separate those lines a little bit further into the song, and I think that would make more sense. There would still be those questions of, like, well, if it was from clowns, then why'd you give the information? But the lines in the song are so close together, it really just kind of puts them very boldly and just kind of makes them stand out a lot more. It's just like, so the people that gave info to Kendrick are clowns, but you made up the information. But that it again, like that doesn't compute in my brain. It's just like why would you call the goons that you gave the info to clowns, but and now you're basically saying it's just like, oh yeah, that information was fed to him. Also the line about I'm too famous to be a pedophile is definitely a line, and I don't think that is the correct way to deal with this, and a very correct way to actually tackle that allegation. Because how many people do you know in mainstream media or famous or are famous have been caught with pedophilia allegations? I'm going to assume a good amount of them. So I think the famous thing or not having enough time to pursue in these predator things is not the correct way to respond to it. And I think it just plays more into this just being very, very rushed. And I think this shoots Drake more in the foot than it does address the stuff that's been going on. And not to mention, too, at the very last portion of the song is like, you can put out hundreds and hundreds of more tracks. I'll see you later. So it's funny, too, because in Push Ups, the last little bit of the song is like drop, drop, drop. And I know that's the beginning of Family Matters, but it's basically egging the person on to drop what they have, to drop the bombs that they've received, and to put them onto a diss track. But now it's gotten to the point where we have completely flipped to the other side, where it's just basically, you can do whatever you want. I'm out of here. I think he says like it was a good exercise. I'm glad it got you out of off your ass to produce music, which I mean, sure. I guess you could take the positive out of this thing, but it does paint Drake in the spot where it feels like that we may be in the spot where Drake may have subsided or may have surrendered, because I think Drake has officially run out of things to say. And honestly, I think Kendrick has too. I don't think he has any more ammo. If he does, I would be very surprised. And even if he does have more ammo, I think Drake still does not respond. And again, I said to myself that I wasn't going to make another video on this stuff because it was getting so brutal and so very, just the allegations were getting very serious. But I think we have now reached the point where we have come out the other side, and now we're starting to see people just firing off blanks, or people really just kind of experiencing the aftermath of what the heck just happened. Because let's be honest, this is one of the most exciting, at moments terrifying, and most engaged we have all been in rap and music in general, probably ever since 2018. This is the most involved we have ever been. It is the most exciting we've ever been, and the most terrifying and harrowing it's ever been as well. But I'm going to remember this, honestly, for the rest of my life. And while this beef may feel like it's not over, to me, I feel like the beef is kind of over. I feel like we have exercised and we have gone through every single motion that we have had throughout this entire thing. And I really don't see this escalating any further. Receipts may be shown, receipts may be given. Honestly, I don't think that's the case. I feel like everything is going to be left up in the air, and we're not going to get 100% answers. Don't expect answers to be coming at this point. I think the allegations that were thrown at each other, while very biting, can sometimes be very hard to actually show receipts for, especially when it comes to the predator allegations, because sometimes receipts for stuff like that is very difficult to find, but also to believe in its authenticity. So I think a lot of this is going to stay up in the air, and I think this beef is going to have a lingering effect in hip hop for sure. And I feel like other albums that are going to come out are definitely going to acknowledge the existence of this beef. It's very hard to go back from this, especially for Kendrick and Drake. I think both of these, this beef has altered their careers forever. And I think the way that they approach music, and the way that the lyrics and the way that they are portrayed, is going to drastically change over the next little while. And I don't think you can go back to the way that it was. So I guess consider this as a post-mortem of probably one of the biggest beasts in history. I know I wasn't around in the 90s. Obviously, I wasn't born. But of this generation, this was definitely the biggest beef I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I'll be 100% personal. I on Friday, or actually Thursday, I worked the whole day. Friday, I worked the whole day, and then I went to play floor hockey, so I was quite exhausted. Saturday, I did a drumming convention, and then I did something else in the evening. And then Sunday, I went to church, and then I did some things with friends until 11 or 12 in the morning. Amongst all of these tracks being released, I did not sleep. I did not sleep at all, to the point where I suffered from what the doctor said was severe exhaustion and dehydration, and I fainted in my house. So thanks, Kendrick and Drake. You have made this memorable, both in my brain and also in a physical matter. But I think this beef is finally over. So with that, thank you very much for watching, and thanks for everyone that has checked out this channel. Again, I don't know how you found me, but I appreciate you giving me the time, and more videos are coming on other things besides a beef. So I'll catch y'all next time.